something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. He's been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate real stories. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. This is a show where I try to educate people about the criminal justice system, and we just generally talk about current events for educational purposes only, for community purposes. Tonight I have in the studio Mr. Danny Sneed from The Path to Freedom, the Lazarus Project at St. John's United Methodist Church, and a returning citizen that I encourage every week. I also have in the studio Mr. Daniel DeLuna. He is a newly licensed attorney, and he's ready to talk about current events tonight. So one of the real exciting things about my new job as a Harris County District Attorney, again, is being able to introduce new policies and procedures and, go after the bad guys. So one of the more interesting things we're doing right now is the misdemeanor marijuana diversion program. And in that program, we are diverting people around the criminal justice system who are charged with misdemeanor amounts of marijuana. DA Kim Ogg thinks that's very important because she has calculated it to save $26 million of taxpayer money, because people charged with such crimes will no longer be arrested, which is officers' time. They will not go to court, which is a lot of time on court expenses. They will not have to go through the system or be housed in the Harris County Jail. So we're excited about that program. It just started March the 1st. Today is March the 8th. And I think as of yesterday, there were 51 people who had participated in the program. So as a man who's been to prison 15 years, 3 times. Tell me, what do you think about a program like that, Danny?
Well, when I heard about it, I started telling everybody, man, that I wasn't giving people with a permission statement saying now that you can, legally smoke marijuana. But
you think that means you can legally smoke marijuana?
No, but you don't have to worry about if you're getting pulled over and they smell it, and they find a doobie, or a doobie. You know what a doobie is, right?
I think I remember.
Not Doobie Brothers, the Doobie. A Doobie is like,
I think they still called it Doobie in the 70s. I remember that.
Well, these millennials, they don't smoke joints.
They don't smoke, okay, I know what a Doobie is.
Blunts.
Oh, they call it blunts.
Yeah.
Which is a blunt cigarette, right?
Right. So I don't understand the process of smoke. I tell them that's another subject. When I explain how you get high. But I did let people know that, because, we work with, the demographics of people getting out of jail and prison, that finally Harris County has taken a different approach towards marijuana, at least the small amounts. But you can't have it bagged up. And someone said, well, how much can you have without it being considered too much? I thought you told me you could have less than 4 ounces.
It is. It's less than 4 ounces. That's a lot.
Is it?
I don't know how much it is, but one of the police officers showed me what he said was 4 ounces. It was about this much, enough like you can put in your hands.
So my boy Paul Wall and my other friends.
It's not retroactive.
In the hip hop community.
It's not retroactive, but
So if you already been.
If you're already going to jail right now, it just depends on what the prosecutor thinks they can do, but it's not retroactive. It started March 1st.
So hypothetically, I'm riding, I'm smoking the joint, and a police officer pulls me over, and he said, Danny, what you doing? I'm saying, I'm smoking a joint. He gonna say, why are you doing that? I'm saying, well, it's just a ticket.
It's not a ticket, though, Danny. It's not a ticket.
You told me they write you a citation.
I didn't tell you that.
Okay,
that might be
to
what the news says. There is an acknowledgement form and that the officer fills out, and you sign the bottom of it. It's a whole sheet of
Can
it's
I
a whole
keep
paper.
smoking while he doing that?
Hell no. It's a whole piece of paper like this, and they've signed the bottom. They get the option of doing it. They can go to jail.
Do they take my weed?
Yes, they take your weed.
Why they? Oh, okay.
Because the weed is the evidence. It's still a crime.
Oh, okay then.
It's a crime. Smoking marijuana is a crime. We're not decriminalizing it. We are using DA Ogg has chosen to use her prosecutorial discretion to divert crime around the jail system. That's a legal program that she can run called Diversion. Our Texas legislature has said on misdemeanor cases, the DA has the discretion as the executory branch of government to divert certain crimes, like certain misdemeanor low-level crimes. And instead of someone going through the system, it's the same thing. So they get a form that says they have to take a 4-hour cognitive learning class within 90 days, and if not, a warrant will be issued for their arrest.
It's kind of like a speeding ticket going to defensive driving.
You could think of it that way. However, if the program doesn't work, we'll go back to the old way. But it's still a crime. We're just allowing you not to have an arrest record, not to have to go to jail and have a court record, not to have a criminal record for taking time or probation, not losing your driver's license. You can get arrested for misdemeanor marijuana and go to jail, and you can go to court and plead time served. You'll still have to pay at least $250 in court costs, and the DPS suspends your driver's license. And that's one of the things that a lot of poor people.
For weed?
Yes, and that's always been the law. If you
how long your license suspended? If you get
6 months to a year, depending on your age and how many times you've had your license suspended. And the kicker of getting your license suspended is that it's surcharges to get it back. You don't just automatically get it back when the suspension is up. You have to take a class.
And file an SR-22,
File SR-22, but you have to actually take, if it's a weed case, you actually have to take a class, and you can get surcharges for it too. So that's the significance part. I mean, that really will help people. Now, I have heard of but the police can still arrest you. So say, for example, somebody said, oh man, I can get away with smoking weed if they got a little funky attitude like you had, and the officers call DA intake and say, look, this guy continues to smoke weed, or they get caught smoking weed an hour after they get get offered the program, then they can take them to jail. I mean, it is a crime. You have an opportunity to divert it for those people who truly want to keep their records protected.
Wait a minute. So you saying, is it the officer's discretion whether he writes me a citation, or is he mandated that if I pull me over and I got a small amount of weed under 4 ounces, that he can't take me to jail based on some other trumped up, no pun intended, charge?
Oh, I don't think the officer is going to trump up some charges. He's going to call it as he sees it. But the officers are volunteering to participate in this process. The DA's office cannot make them or mandate them to do anything.
Hold on. That mean I still can go to jail, hypothetically?
Anybody can go to jail, yes.
So
you can still go to jail. It's an option.
You get a police an option to write me a citation to take me to jail?
You're not listening to me. Let me try again. The officers have agreed to participate, but if they can articulate another crime or they feel like you need to go to jail for whatever reason, you can still go. 90% of the people, I believe, will be offered the program because they're going to cooperate, be kind to the police officer. They won't be a suspect in another crime. Sometimes when people are stopped, they're suspects in another crime. And you can be held for 72 hours if you're a suspect for another crime. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is a way to divert people around, because most people who get misdemeanor marijuana cases, that's not the cases that ruined your life, Danny. They're people who might still be going to college, they might still be in law school, they might be 40 years old and just still smoke weed, but they might have a corporate job.
Here's a hypothetical.
And a lot of people get messed up behind weed.
Here's a hypothetical. Say I don't smoke weed.
I know you don't. You're on parole.
Not anymore.
Oh, I forgot you're off parole.
Yeah, I
forgot you're a free man.
Yeah, I voted.
Yeah, you voted. I forgot. I'm sorry.
So, say if the officer and I have just a joint, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna arrest you." I'm like, "Wait a minute, dude. They changed the law. No, I'm
The
a
law has not changed. That's what I'm trying to explain. All right, let's let the young lawyer get in here. Daniel, come on, get in this conversation.
Well-
It looks like I'm not making myself clear. Can you communicate?
Well, I think the program is a great chance to circumvent or to prevent these nonviolent offenders from picking up a charge and go through the expense and the hassle, the worry, the concern, and the stress of what's this going to look like on my record. Because a lot of times when employers just, run a real quick background check on you, like, oh, there's something. And they don't understand the details of it, whether the case still hasn't been worked out or whether there was some kind of agreement that resulted in dismissal. Then you have to worry about getting expunged. And this just gives you it's just one more safeguard to give you that one more chance to prevent you from being in the system. And it
gives law enforcement an opportunity to show you that they're not picking on you. I hope you're not just smoking weed. Most of the weed cases, based on my 20 plus years of experience, are not based on people riding down the street smoking weed. Usually there's the smell of weed. You don't see any weed anywhere, any marijuana anywhere. And once the officer gets you out and puts you in the back of the patrol car and searches your car, then they find the marijuana.
Okay.
So that's what most of the cases are. So that person is usually compliant and cooperative, but what we see from the court system is that it ruins young people's lives, and most of them are young. Most mature people your age are not stupid enough to drive around with weed in their car. I mean, you already know what it'll do. So it's usually young offenders, say 25 and under, they're the ones that have it. And they're the ones that are trying to be employable, trying to get apartments, because once you get, like Daniel said, once you have that one little thing on your record, people are acting funny with you about apartments, about jobs. When you get your first jobs and, 2 applicants apply and one has a weed marijuana case and one doesn't, the employer's still going to hire the one that doesn't have it. So that gives young people an opportunity who want to do right. If you don't have to take the program, it's an option. You can still say, oh, take me to jail and do time served and get out, with it on your record. Some people never plan on getting a driver's license. We're not trying to do this for those people. We're trying to do it for the young offenders who usually get caught up. They have to pay, money to bond out. They have to pay money to hire a lawyer, and they have to pay money to try to either go to trial if they're not guilty. I mean, if someone's not guilty and they think the officer is picking on them, then they still have that opportunity to go to trial if they feel like they're not guilty. Everybody has that constitutional right.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to take the class. Or say, for example, you decide not to take the class and you get a warrant and you have to go to jail. I mean, you still might want a trial. I mean, it's still your right. Or you might want to try when the officer stops you. If he says you had a busted tail light and you don't feel you did, you can still do that. But I'm excited about working for a reformer DA that is trying to reform things and use our tax dollars wisely, which is in her prosecutorial discretion. Like I said, her discretion will not always be so kind. I mean, it will be tough where it needs to be tough. And I'm excited about that.
Me too. I'm looking forward to see what good Kim Og does going forward. And
Yeah.
she seems very reasonable and, most importantly, very logical.
She's very concerned about victims and people who are hurting, who've been victimized by the system. So this is a way to free up resources so we can go after the ag robbers, the burglars, the people charged with murder.
The violent offenders.
And learn more about identity theft. Identity theft is hard to deal with. So that's another area that, we need to develop some strategies to prosecute.
I was thinking about you the other day, and it was a real tough case in the news here recently involving a little girl, the 8-year-old.
Oh, they got shot. That's terrible.
Right. And, but they, it's because you went from being a criminal defense attorney to now a district attorney, and I still kind of, wrestle with that in my mind at night, even though it's your career and it's your decision. It's kind of like you've been a Cowboy fan all this time, and then I find out, you like the New England Patriots or something. It's just hard to grasp. But,
some of my coworkers are having a hard time grasping that too.
But think about this. As being an activist and always been defending the rights of people, I think it's no better place and position for you to be but being a district attorney office where it really matters, because you were negotiating with the district attorney to be more understanding and lenient. Now you don't have to do that. You're the person that's on the inside that can weigh these cases out differently with not the heavy hand of the law and have some compassion, empathy, different perception. And I'm glad to have you on that side. I'm not going to need you. I don't plan on needing your services.
Well, the
or
only way you could
saying,
need me is if you get victimized.
well,
Because,
no.
and although I appreciate you seeing me as a defense lawyer going to being a prosecutor, a lot of people forget that I was a prosecutor first. So when you start off being a prosecutor, it's always still near and dear in your heart. You want the system to be fair. Even as a prosecutor, the first time around, from 92 to 95, I did things fairly. I took my oath seriously. The prosecutor's oath is not to convict, but to see that justice is done. So that was very important to me. Even the first time around, it's very important to me now. Justice is what's important. And like I said, it's a lot of people being victimized out here, and we need to do something about it. So anyway, so Daniel, tell me, what have you observed, and what is on your mind and heart to talk about, since we're having a free flow of information tonight?
Well, it's interesting to talk about the new changes that are going on, the progressive thinking at the district attorney's office, and the new concern for victims of the system going forward, because as a criminal defense attorney, even though I've only been practicing for a short while, I can see how easy it is to fall into that trap of misinformation and disinformation and just a scary system in general. But another thing that's really scary going on in the news we hear is Texas is getting ready to pass a new bathroom bill, which was something that Houston dealt with a while ago, and then the Obama administration did, and now the Trump administration is working on that too. And here in Texas, they're getting ready to propose a bill or send the bill to the House to see what's going to happen, that in order to go to a restroom or a bathroom, you have to go to the one that corresponds with your sex assigned at birth. So this affects individuals who may not identify with the sex or gender assigned at birth, or choose to change as they grow up and they grow older and find out who they are. And so now Texas is wrestling with this issue, and because we're all citizens here in Texas now, it's affecting us.
That is interesting. So,
You know what North Carolina is facing? Corporations are boycotting their state because they didn't pass. They did what Texas is trying to do.
Right.
So the Super Bowl, the NBA All-Star game was supposed to be there. So what they did is they decided, until you guys change the law, we're not going to do business in your state. And so the governor
I find that very interesting that a football league would do that, considering the fact that that's so macho, that they would even care about bathrooms as they are assigned at sex. Do you think that there's something else really behind that? I mean, that just sounds peculiar to me, that a gender-based sports organization would care about bathrooms. I mean, I know a lot of people go to sporting events, and I know that's how they make their money. But they don't make their bread and butter off of gender assignments. The people because those people are really in the minority. And I respect them, but I'm just saying they're in the minority. So I just find that interesting that they would not bring millions of dollars to a town behind something that really doesn't affect them, because it's all one gender assignment in the locker room.
I think that has to deal with their fans who support them.
You really think it's that many fans that have a different gender assignment?
Maybe it might not be affecting many fans directly, but it could be affecting their family. It could be affecting cousins, second cousins, third cousins, spouses, or some kind of relationship that another person in the family might be involved in. And suddenly, if Mr. Sneed was mentioning earlier, Dallas and New England Patriots, but the thing they have in common is football, which is the same thing that prosecutors and criminal defense attorneys have in common, criminal law.
Right.
And in this case, it's about fans and about comfort. And if suddenly their team doesn't respect them or their family, then they might have a problem with that team. So
very elegant, Daniel. Thank you. You won me over. Okay, I understand.
So it's great that they're in such support of that.
I just realized I got two Dannies tonight. All right.
we have to give kudos to the LBGTQ.
No, you can't even say LBGTQ
community for being
strong
advocates for their rights.
Absolutely.
And although they make a small percentage of the population, their advocacy work is huge. They make sure their voices are heard, their issues are heard, and they're addressed. And they have a lot of support from people that are not in that lifestyle, but believe that you have just as much rights as anybody else.
No, I support that right too. I support that right. I just am surprised and kind of amazed that a Major League football team or Major League basketball team would consider where they go based on bathroom rights, since that's such a new phenomenon, really. You know what I mean? Because if it was older, big stadiums would build. I mean, because to me, the ideal thing is for a big stadium to have, all female, all male, and then unassigned, where anybody can go in there. That to me, that would be, because sometimes when you're young, I know for young ladies, when I was 12 and 13 and my daughter, I just would not have wanted to be in the bathroom with anybody scary. I mean, I almost wish there was like a teenage bathroom, because teenagers kind of, you know what I mean? Because teenagers kind of want to be together. I mean,
Right.
They're going through, young ladies are going through changes. They're having, cycles. They don't know what's going on with their bodies, and they get caught off guard a lot of times. So there's things going on that they don't even want to be around older people. Sometimes they'd rather be around their own age. So it's interesting. I wonder, once we get into the no gender bathrooms, will it then be, 15 and under, or, everybody wants to be heard. So it's interesting. The evolution of life is interesting.
Hopefully, there's no need to prove an ID or some kind of age before you go to the
If you
bathroom.
go to the bathroom, I know it.
That'd be terrible.
I know it. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. So, what do y'all think about, if you're still on this topic? Do you have anything else to comment on this topic, Danny?
No, but it's going to affect our sports and the way we do things here, just like it did that state. Eventually, it's like the quiet storm, the next quiet storm in Texas, depending on how they vote and then how people react. We're in a very conservative state, but we're not in a conservative city. Houston is so unique geographically when you look at the landscape, and you can see it in our election, the last election we had, how many judges were elected to the court. There were Democratic judges. Mm-hmm. And even when you look at the mayor and the policies here in our city, it's very liberal. Mm-hmm. And so if you're looking for a place in Texas, I invite you to come to Houston. It is awesome.
And liberal isn't bad. Liberal just means logical most of the time.
I think liberal means tolerant. You know what I'm saying? It's just they have more tolerant, and they're more they're socialists. They look at social issues instead of economic issues. Economically is important. Conservatives believe that let's watch the money, conserve, not spend a lot, and but liberals saying like, hey, some people are suffering. Hey, let's help them out. Let's all pitch in and help the people that don't have. Conservatives say they don't have because they don't want to work.
Right.
They want entitlements. They want handouts. But that's not always the case.
Right.
They want equal opportunity. And so far, it only looks like Walmart and these companies that'll let you work, billionaire companies, but the wages don't match. They just let you survive. You can't ever get ahead. You just can survive.
Right. You're just barely getting by.
Barely getting by. But I digress.
No. That's not a problem at all. It's not a problem. Tell me what's going on with the Path to Freedom. What are we working on at St. John's United Methodist Church and our returning citizens? What's going on?
Reentry is still a big deal, and it's what's unique about Path of Freedom, which is a reentry ministry, is that we figured out that most reentry programs focus on employment when people get out of prison. But the evidence doesn't show that a job keeps a person from returning to prison. So what we look at is something else underneath the behavior that causes a person to get back involved in the criminal cycle, criminal incitement. So when they come to a Path of Freedom, we focus on things that don't point to, if you get a job, you're going to be okay. If you get housing, you're going to be okay. We talk about what led you into this lifestyle, and what is it about it that's so attractive that keeps you not being able to pull away. So the bottom line is, change is about being in the room, having a conversation why it's important, versus telling a person, you need to change. Everybody tells you need to change.
Right.
If you change, it's going to be able to change it. But change just doesn't happen through just want to change. It's simply just having a conversation consistently in a type of group setting around people just saying, sharing ideas and strategies, life skills. I have been fortunate enough to buy into the idea that a new life is just new people. Like you, Daniel, and Vivian, just being in the company of people that you're not used to being around, I call it adult peer pressure. Yeah, because most of the behaviors and most things I learned, from weed to anything, my mother didn't teach me. My aunts and my cousins didn't teach me. It happened between walking home from school, back to school, people offering you. I remember the first time somebody offered me weed, I was like, why? They said, well, it's going to make you laugh. Like, I laugh all the time now. I didn't really need it. But after a while, it's like to be accepted. I remember my first bag, I kept it for like a whole summer. And I kept it up under my bed, and I only pulled it out when somebody came over, like, hey guys, y'all come over here. Like, what? Y'all want to smoke some weed? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got weed? Yeah. I would go up under the bed, bring it to them, watch them do whatever they needed to do, but just to fit in. And that was just as a kid. But as adults, sometimes we display those same behaviors. We just want to fit in.
Yeah, I think that follows a lot of people. Peer pressure has always been real, and it continues to be real in this day, and people just face it in different stages, regardless of where they're at in their life. And then to comment previously at what you mentioned earlier about your program, I'm happy to hear that there's programs out there that are providing comprehensive care to people who are returning to our community. And we talked about it briefly, is that change doesn't come from a lecture. Change doesn't come from a narrative, but it comes from a conversation. So I'm glad to hear that there's programs out there, and that someone who's associated with Ms. King and has a good heart and a good head on their shoulders are out there helping our community. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's great to come to church I go to church on Sunday mornings, usually at 8. And then Danny usually comes in at 10, and he's always set up in the lobby with his Path to Freedom and all his guys with their T-shirts on. And every now and then I wear my Path to Freedom T-shirt too, just to show my solidarity with them. But it's a great thing, because I've watched the guys through the years. I think I've been going there about 7 years now. I've watched the guys through the years improve. Some of them have fallen by the wayside, but most of them have stayed steady to the program.
And those are so unique situations. It's not easy to change, Daniel. I mean, some of these guys that come on this show and tell their story on Vivian have been to prison 5 times. And only recently, because they got involved in, I will say it had something to do with Path to Freedom, but they have continuously not returned. And
Stay on the close-up for me. Thank you.
And so I was thinking about this again the other night, Vivian, how many people have we came in contact with in the last 3 years that have made this big, huge turnaround in their life?
They have.
And it's just like more than one. Say if it's 10 people, that just doesn't happen every day, that a person spends all those years in prison and all of a sudden just stops.
And I think that, I can't take any credit for it, but you do feel that because we validated them, that it helped them. Because most of them have texted me afterwards, they've emailed me through, and kept in touch with me, telling me how good it felt, even if they Facebooked me, or like if, Troy Bounds is like one of my favorite stories. He's one of those guys that went at 18 to the federal penitentiary and had to stay like 14, 15, 16 years. And I've had him come on, then a year later or 2 years later come on again. He stayed out and he's doing really well. And I'm so proud of them. So many of them I follow on Facebook. I see what they're doing, and they're really trying. I mean, and to be in a church environment where these returning citizens are doing better, they're getting their jobs. I mean, what about our girl Alicia?
And Ren Moore.
Oh my God, and Ren Moore, oh yeah.
This guy does 20 years in prison for murder.
Yeah.
He goes in at 18. He gets out at what?
I don't know, 38?
At 38, goes to TSU and graduates
And he was on
valedictorian.
and he was on the dean's list even when he first came on here.
Right.
Remember? And it was so strange to see a guy who had been in that life, like 40 years old, on the dean's list, and then he graduates valedictorian from TSU. Wow. I mean, and we'd had him on twice, like over a couple of years,
Right.
while he was in college, and the Chronicle ran the article and everything, and it was so wonderful that we had been running his story for the last couple of years. It was really rewarding for us.
So the Huffington Post even did a story on this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And we had been watching him from the beginning.
And he's only been out maybe 4 years after doing 20 years.
Just long enough to graduate from college. I mean, to
Oh,
go
wow,
to
that was
college.
4 years.
Yeah, about 4 years, right?
Right. So it's evidence that people can change.
Oh, yeah.
And that.
But they do need to. One of the things we talk about on the show, has become one of redemption, basically, where we can tell people stories. We can ask people not to get in trouble like this, and we can show, though, if you do fall by the wayside, you can improve, you can change your life, and we've watched them do it. But they have such a great support group. Danny's program, and on Thursday nights they meet they're in a round circle, and they pray, and then people tell their stories, and it's kind of like it's a support group, really.
Right. And we've been fortunate enough to have judges,
Yeah.
attorneys to come and sit in on these different groups and see how reentry works. But most of us grew up in a world where there were no rules. And the lifestyle we're in, it just wasn't rules. It was only getting caught or not getting caught, and dealing with the consequences, avoiding the consequences. And it's something that you just don't see that you're going to ever get out of. There's no alternative. Most people get out of prison, return to the same environment, same people. It's like time just waited on them to get out, and nothing changed. And so when they get out, there's nothing new. So this program allows them an alternative. And the first thing we do is have that conversation about, if you think a job is going to validate your life and keep you out of prison, there's no evidence of that. So yes, find a job. Yes, find housing, but focus on what led you to prison. And most of the time is the thinking that rules don't matter.
Now let's change the subject a little bit. So, Daniel, not to put you on the spot, but let me put you on the spot.
That's okay.
So, what do you and it could be you and or people in your community. And I know you're from a small town, Rio Grande, right?
Yes.
And what is the Mexican American attitude toward what's going on with Trump? From your perspective, which might be different from your hometown. But talk to us about the different attitudes of the Mexican American community right now.
I think in general, it's shock and disbelief and a little bit of awe. Some people, or like me, didn't think it was going to get to this point. And now here we are, and we're facing this reality of unsure of the consequences that can not only impact family members, but family acquaintances, people that you might not have known. They were undocumented and they're great people, and suddenly now they're facing something where they're not just going to be out of your life, but they're being forcibly removed from your community, your hometown, your home state. And some people just might not understand the severe repercussions of it and are for it and are approving of it. And it's interesting to see that positive mentality and state of mind towards these things going on when their actual family history has had a history of immigrants coming to this great country of ours, whether it be their grandparents, whether it be their wives or husbands. And to hear them say, yeah, I'm happy that this is going this way, without making sure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. And thank God for our judicial system and for how our government works, that there are checks and balances, and there cannot just be a regime and no one can just get railroaded without at least some safeguard. So it's just a mixed bag of emotions that I've noticed. Some people are for it, some are against it, others are abiding by the wait and see principle, which is what I think a lot of our country is doing right now.
Has your family or you known anyone who's been snatched up from their jobs or from their communities that have been affected right now?
No, not personally, but I have had clients call me and said, when am I going to get trumped?
Wow.
That's the word.
Is that the new word?
That's the
Trump?
word. I've heard it around
Wow.
the courthouse too. I've heard
What do you
attorneys
tell them?
say.
What do you say?
First of all, I try to I get an idea what's going on, because sometimes they're residents and they think, am I going to be deported next? Am I next? And I cannot give them a solid answer because unfortunately I haven't had the experience to practice immigration law or to go to someone who can give me those resources. So I can't give them an answer, but I refer them to other attorneys that do practice immigration law, and I tell them, be sure that you explain to the attorney your entire situation. Right. Ask about automatic deportation. Ask about automatically denying your admittance again. And be sure that...
So let me make sure I understand. So the people who have green cards, so they're residents. Mm-hmm. They we call them resident aliens, but they're residents. I know they come up like every 10 years or whatever for renewal. Mm-hmm. So those people are worried.
Yes.
Will they be renewed?
Right. Those people are worried, and some that are not documented are concerned too, and they have small misdemeanors. But the question is this a severe case or is this a bad case? Or is this pretty benign, innocent? The question for an American is not that bad, misdemeanor or felony. How bad is it? But when someone's undocumented and there seems to be this, for lack of a more appropriate phrase, a witch hunt for undocumented citizens or anybody who we can get out of the country, it's very nerve-wracking. Suddenly a misdemeanor is not just a fine. It's not possibly a ticket. It's not possibly time served. It's how is this going to impact me, my family, and how can I take care of myself going forward? And one of my clients called me because his coworker was picked up and taken away.
Oh, wow.
And while I was at the courthouse, I was with a colleague who I went to school with, and they showed me on the Facebook page that ICE was in Pasadena, just taking people out from there. And so I can understand why it'd be nerve-wracking for them. It's nerve-wracking for me as an attorney, and I'm not in their position.
It's nerve-wracking for me. I went to my cleaners that I've been going to for at least 15 years, and I love the Hispanic ladies who work at the desk. And Saturday they weren't there. And some Indians from India, they might be Indian American, own it. And so they usually are kind of in the back, but the 3 or 4 Hispanic ladies that run it, they're the ones giving you your clothes, taking your new clothes, and they were all gone. They've always been there. I'm just hoping they all took off at the same time, but I was scared to ask. When I go this Saturday, I will ask if they're not there, but I felt heartbroken that I didn't see them, because one lady greets me so beautifully. She has a beautiful smile, and we like those little niceties that we give each other. So I'm worried. But one thing I do want you to know, with the new misdemeanor marijuana diversion program, it doesn't matter if they're undocumented, as long as they have valid identification. It could be their consulate's identification. It could be a driver's license from another country. As long as they have valid identification, whatever officers take for citations, they'll take any type of identification. So I do want you to know that. And the interesting thing also is that the program applies if you're on parole. If you're on parole and you get caught with some weed, because a lot of times parolees are driving other people's cars and they are getting drug tested monthly, but we're not getting involved with that. They're eligible if they want to take it.
So you're saying they don't, because if you don't go to jail,
Now,
your parole officer don't even know what happened, but you're supposed to report it, though.
I'm not in that, but I'm just telling you, parole, we're not worrying about parole. Now, if they're on bond for another case, if they're on deferred adjudication or on probation, they're not eligible. Because they're already
go to jail then?
Yeah, because they're already on a court order. They're under a court order. If you're on bond, like right now, if you're on bond for, shoplifting or aggravated robbery, you're going to court every month. You're under a court order not to be around weed or people of ill repute.
Oh, okay.
If you're on deferred adjudication, that's probation or any type of probation. Part of the conditions of probation is not to be disrespectful to your probation officer.
You're saying parole, they don't say anything, but probation they do?
I'm just telling you how Kim Ogg wrote her policy, who she's diverting. I'm just telling you who she's diverting, so if that's the question. Because remember, this is not something that's written by the legislature. This is not the law. This is the way we're executing a sentence. The DA can execute the sentence anyway, whatever lawful means are available. And this is a lawful method.
Okay.
But she's not going to do that because the judges are not. If they have them under a court order or a bond, they want them to not be around illegal substances. A lot of parolees are borrowing other people's cars. It might be weed already in the car. You just don't know. And they're being tested at this time, we're not getting involved with the parole system. So if they're on parole, they're eligible if they want to take it. That's another chance, but we are not putting restrictions yet. If people keep doing it or get in trouble over and over again, then there might be something else happens. So it'll be whatever DA Kimog says. It just started 8 days ago. So
You said already 51 people have already participated
as
in
of
it?
yesterday, I didn't get the numbers this morning, but as of yesterday morning, so that would really be March 6th, with the first total 6 days, it was 51 people.
So that's 51 people that's not sitting in jail.
Does not sit in jail, did not have to post bond, did not have to use resources.
Car got towed.
Exactly. Car didn't get towed, didn't go to jail,
Lost
don't have
their
to bond
job.
up. And that's what Kim feels like, DA Kimog feels like. A lot of people lose their jobs behind misdemeanor marijuana. Now they shouldn't be doing it. It's illegal. So remember, whatever you've seen and read where she's trying to decriminalize it is false. This is a legal option. It's a diversion program. It is a diversion program that's legal. So, do we really have a phone call? I see phone on there. I haven't seen that in a long time. Caller, you're on.
Hello there, Miss King.
Who is that, Tracy?
Yeah, the #1 fan.
What happened to my #1 fan? Tracy, I've been missing you. Where you been?
MIA.
You've
Well,
been MIA for about a year, Tracy. I thought you quit me.
Oh, no, never. What's up, Danny?
How you doing?
Daniel?
Hi, how's it going?
I just called to let you know I enjoy the show, and I've been watching it online, but I ain't been watching on cable because I don't have the Comcast anymore.
Okay, I know you got to try to do it a different way, huh? Try to save that money.
Yeah, but I'm watching tonight. I've been watching too. But I do have one question about the policy.
Okay.
From what I understand, don't have to be your first offense for being caught with marijuana.
That's
If you have
true.
a previous arrest, okay, that's what I thought.
Regardless of your criminal history, you can be on
Oh,
parole.
okay.
You can be, yes, regardless of your criminal history.
Okay, well, I'm saying if you never been arrested for marijuana prior to get caught with it again, you still go to jail, right?
Say that again, Tracy.
Okay, if you ever been arrested for possession of marijuana previously, and you get caught again the second time or third time, you're not eligible for the class, right?
Nope, that's not true. You're eligible.
Oh, you are?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I just want to congratulate you on being in the DA's office. You get a chance to keep on fighting that good fight.
I am. I'm excited about putting the bad guys away again. Yes, on the marijuana program now, if it's, they have 90 days to complete the class. Let's say they got the program Saturday, and they take the class this Saturday, and they pick up a case again, starts over. But if if it's still in the period where they haven't taken the class, then they go to jail.
But isn't there some kind of fee attached to the class?
Absolutely, it's a fee attached. It's $150.
$150.
Yeah, but it costs more than that to bond out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or to lose your job and to stay in jail. It's $150, and if you're indigent, there's a form you can fill out.
Okay.
And that
All right,
pays
then,
that pays for the teacher that teaches the class, because it's the probation department's extra job.
Okay, but that's still a good thing, though. It's helping people, keep them going to jail and getting it on their record. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, especially since the numbers show that we have 10,000 cases like that a year.
And then, I was in jail once, probably about maybe 12 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And most of the people who I talked to that was in there, they was in there for small amounts of marijuana, like a sweet or a joint or a nickel bag or a dime bag. Nothing, no big stuff. But they was maybe, I was talking about maybe 75% of the people I talked to.
Right. We think that it's going to help with the jail overcrowding situation. And, because a lot of people, like you said, if they don't have any money and they're poor and they get caught with small amounts of weed, they just sit it out.
Yeah.
A lot of times people just sit it out. They do, 4, 5, 10 days, 2 weeks in jail, and rather than try to spend the money and recess and just most people lose everything anyway if you miss those checks or if they don't have a job. So we're hoping it helps. We started March 1st. We'll analyze it probably at the end of the year, either at the end of this year or when the anniversary is February 28th of next year, when it becomes 1 year. Yep. So
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, and I want you to keep doing your thing, and I'm glad you still got your show going here.
Thank you for watching, Tracy. We appreciate the call in. I thought you forgot about me.
All
right.
Oh,
bye-bye.
no, never.
Thank you, Tracy. All right, we hadn't gotten a call in a long time. I thought the phone stopped working.
Well, I'm gonna work on getting people to call in, but a lot of times the conversation
Hot.
is so in depth.
Yeah,
People
no,
just like they glued. They just want to hear what we're saying, and that's awesome.
That is awesome. It's awesome that we still have Mr. Tracy. Tracy's my #1 fan. He started my Facebook page.
Oh,
fan
that's
page.
cool.
Yeah, he started it. About 5 years ago, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So, anyway, anything else on your mind? What about bail reform? There's a lot going on with bail reform. There is a group that are suing the misdemeanor judges, the misdemeanor criminal judges, for the bond schedule. It's going on in federal court right now in Judge Rosenthal's court. So that's interesting to watch see how that will
So
turn
what
out.
is the
The issue?
yeah?
That most people can't. People are being held in jail because they're poor and not because they're dangerous. Because this lawsuit is just on misdemeanors. It doesn't have anything to do with felony. So most misdemeanors, most people in society don't feel like they're dangerous unless it's family violence.
So you should get some type of personal reconnaissance bond.
I haven't studied the lawsuit, but that's basically what it is. Yeah, most people shouldn't be housed in jail and forced to plead guilty. It's in the name of a lady named O'Donnell. And I think I've read her story before. I think she felt like she was mistreated in jail, but she's the named party. So that's going on right now. So that's interesting. Different people are testifying. Different people are going down to the courthouse. So we'll see how that turns out. I think there's a real reform going on because I think in society, I think even our Congress people and our legislators realize we cannot afford to keep housing people in jail. I mean, we have too many people in jail per capita, and I think everybody realizes that. And I think a true conservative party, and I feel like I'm a conservative, even though I'm a Democrat, I feel like I'm a conservative because I believe in things that make sense, and I do believe in less government, and I do believe in spending money in the criminal justice system where it makes sense. Housing people in jail. I mean, I've always hated that up to 75% of the people in jail are just waiting for their court dates. I've always hated that. So with the misdemeanors, it's even worse. The misdemeanor people, they just plead out just to get out. And it's time for change. And I'm glad that the voters voted for change, which is Kim Ogg and Ed Gonzalez and some of the people that are trying to reform and change things. Because we can't just keep arresting everybody. And crime and violent crime might be going up, like the robbers and the gangbangers. So we have to do something about that.
Oh, that's good news.
It is. It is. I mean, even haven't you been victimized in your car?
Yeah, I've had several experiences, but I try not to be traumatized by it, and I just don't want the most horrific event to happen to where they pull their guns out. I remember when they made me stand in the mud one time. I just got a traffic ticket. But when they run your name, it's like all of a sudden these other cars start showing up like, oh man, they look at my record. And so they start reacting to my record. And so the dogs come and everything, and I sit there, I got this smile on my face.
You know you're going to pass unless you get set up. Huh? You know you're going to pass.
It's the thing we call the wreckage of our past. And we have to accept
The wreckage?
the wreckage of your past. So it's not personal. It's like I built this house. I got to live in it and understand that they don't know that I've changed, that I'm not in that lifestyle. They're looking at that, hey, we don't know who you are. And today, we know who you were, 1991, all these convictions for these various things. And I have to own that. But at the same time, it's always reassuring when I see those lights behind me that look like the Christmas lights. During Christmas time, I start smiling. And I smile because it's like, wow, I'm getting pulled over and I'm innocent. I ain't did anything.
Now, you said you stood in the mud? What happened?
Well, because I was on my way to the airport and I'm speeding because I'm trying to catch a flight. I had a rental car. And so it's in Dallas. There's certain county they tell you don't speed in. Rockwood something.
I don't know.
It starts with an R. Rockwall.
A Rockwall, okay. And you sped through it?
Sure.
I thought I was not speeding,
Okay.
but I look behind me and it's not Christmas. I'm like, what are all these lights there? It was the wrong type
Well,
of year.
Christmas lights bring joy to my
Yeah.
heart. DPS
Yeah.
lights, they bring dread and fear.
At nighttime, those lights are traumatizing, boy. They be just so. He pulls me over. You know why I pull you over? You know what I'm saying? No, officer. You were speeding. Got my license, so I come back, and then all of a sudden, so here comes some more Christmas lights and some more Christmas light. I'm like, oh, here we go. You mind we search the car? And you say I don't have to tell them they don't.
You can say no. They asked you, you can say no. I know it's awkward, but you can say no, sir. I mean, no, you cannot search my car, sir.
I don't
Call your
want.
sergeant to the scene. I know it's scary though, but you do have the right to do that.
Yeah, because I'm alone. I don't have anybody there with me. So I'm saying this, the best thing to do is just
Right.
cooperate.
Yep, you can cooperate.
So,
You don't have anything to hide. You can cooperate.
right. And so it was like a ditch over there, it was muddy.
The only problem with the cooperation I can see is I know for me, I'm always late. So, that's my only problem. I don't mind cooperating either, but I'm always late. So it's just like, you're not going to find anything and I'm late. So let me go. I don't want to stay.
So it was a ditch with mud in it. And he could let me stand on the road. He said, go stand over there. I said, sir, it looks kind of muddy over there. It looks like it's some mud over there. He said, did you hear me? I just stood over there, and I'm like, I'm standing in the mud. You know what I'm saying?
Now you got to get back in your car with all that mud on your car.
I'm saying
on
like
your
he
feet.
humiliated me. And they took their time. They like dismantled the car, like they took the engine off, the hood off, and I'm exaggerating and embellishing, but it's like they took the car apart, and it's like, we gotta find something. They went through all my clothes in a suitcase.
And that's my concern with that. I would not want anybody to search my vehicle, my loved one's vehicle, or my client's vehicles if the officer is looking for something and in this process they just tear up the entire
Disrupt
car and
everything,
throw
yeah.
everything outside. And in your case, it sounds like it was either rainy or muddy, so I'd be worried about my luggage or my items that I have in my truck, like a blanket or pillow or something, getting muddy, because then you have to worry about more mud that you're bringing in aside from it being on your shoes.
I know it. Don't you hate it when you have mud in your car?
But I was self-aware. I mean, you got to pick your battles.
Yes, you
Oh, yeah, that battle's not worth it. And the good news is you knew you weren't doing anything so you could go home.
Right.
Or
I can
and
live
you
to fight another day.
And you can catch another flight.
Right. I was like, okay, that's on me.
Oh, you weren't flying, you were driving.
Right. And see, then I took the responsibility that speeding brought them into my area. Not that I was just driving while black. Something had to initiate them to me.
Right.
So I took it from there, like, okay, you slow down, man, because once you get pulled over, you're subjected to going through all this based on what it says on the computer.
Right. I agree.
And so that's another thing when people get out of prison, it's not always being the victim. Now, we know that a lot of things have happened where you see people that it didn't go right. But I still believe that I have a responsibility when I am engaging with the police officers. Or some people different, like, well, you can stand up for your right. You don't have to do that. Well, you don't have to. But I just rather have the story of what they did to me versus how I reacted, and be in hindsight like, what if I would have did something different?
Right. Oh yeah. No, it's too short of an encounter to jeopardize your safety and your well-being. It's just, you might as well just take the humiliation, because like you said, you can live to fight another day. You can move forward. So I agree with you.
Right, and there's an issue with the arrest. The proper way or the proper venue
Is
is
the
not
court.
to fight it right there and then,
Right.
but in court. Because the minute you start giving attitude, they might start looking, okay, this person might be aggressive. Then if this person is aggressive, you have no idea what their experiences will justify and how they're going to meet your force. And then that puts people in a scary position. And I know that a few years ago, during law school, when we were going over criminal procedure, every so often we would just see these horrible videos of terrible encounters between law enforcement and regular people that turns them into defendants and then sometimes into victims. And I don't think we ever want to see that. We want to think and believe that those words on the side of the police car, to protect to serve, is always going to apply. So let's just not give them anything to escalate it any further than that.
But you know what I try to get my daughter, Sharon and Sneed, to understand is the power in the pen. That means the report is what people react to, not what actually happened. So what she believes is the encounter is what she defends. Like, I did this, they said this and this. But I'm saying what you don't realize is when they write the report, they don't record it like it happened. They write it to where the DA has to respond to how it's written. If they said you assaulted and you didn't, the DA and the judge has to go with what the police officer wrote. And if it's not on a video, what his words is what happened, and not what you said happened. You can try to defend that, but the court is not going to take away his testimony in a written report.
Right, and I think that it's so embarrassing that I can't remember who said it, but the adage is true. The pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, that's
And in this case, or at least in the legal profession, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with offense reports, and then how the lawyer responds to that is not always hooting, hollering, and yelling, but sometimes it's the motions that we write and how we handle certain things, the law that we research, and how we phrase our arguments, and that's my pen challenging the officer's pen. And as you said, the pen is really important, and it's always really good to make sure you have a lawyer that can convey your story with the proper law to back it up.
Yeah, because on the streets, they're right and wrong. I was right. Yeah, you were right. But he didn't write that in his report. He wrote something totally different.
Right.
right. Well, I'm hoping with the cooperation of law enforcement and DA that we get to a different place in Houston with law enforcement. It's 2 minutes, and I'm going to end the story with tonight with condolences to the police officers who were shot and their families last week when they were trying to just answer a call of a burglary and I think it was in a back shed house, and 2 officers got shot. I think 1 is now paralyzed. So God bless them for that, and God bless their families, because it is a scary job. Especially if you're just going to, I think a lady just said there's a burglar in the back, and, you know.
We pray for them and for a speedy recovery and for their families.
Yep, that's tough. I mean, that's the toughest thing when law enforcement is, and I mean, it's complicated because it can happen so quickly. You just never know who's going to go crazy.
Right, or what someone's going to pull out of nowhere.
And what's behind a closed door.
Right.
I mean, that's the scary thing.
Well, the people that don't like the police will be the first to call them if something go wrong.
I know that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
And
So
the police know that. And the police know that.
Yeah, so I try not to like really have like an attitude. Like, of course, you know, we have the Trayvons and we have all these
Right.
different cases
Right.
and my own experience. But at nighttime, and I got ADT and all that, let something go wrong.
You calling the police.
I ain't calling, I'm not calling my friends.
Right.
I'm calling 911.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping they come as fast as possible.
Right.
So I have to kind of remember that to jump on the side of saying,
to
you
balance
know, they're bad, they're bad, they're bad.
Right.
What would life be like without the police?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It'd be a scary place, a scary, lawless place. So now we appreciate our law enforcement, and like I said, we pray for the recovery of those families. And it was so wonderful to be able to dialogue with y'all tonight, even though we didn't have a guest tonight. Daniel was our guest tonight.
Daniel was our guest.
Luna was our
Thank you for
guest
having me.
tonight. You know, we always want to talk to the millennials. Are you a millennial?
I don't know. I was born
you-
in '89.
Oh yeah, you're definitely a millennial.
I am? Okay.
Are you older than a millennial or younger?
I'm not even sure what a millennial is,
I
but if
don't
it's a
either.
hipster, I'm not a hipster.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us the younger person's point of view, and Danny, thank you for showing up, and thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Good night.